Hello, and welcome to this first lecture on material balances. We're going to be talking about unit operations. Uh, so the process engineer is usually someone that is analyzing processes, chemical processes or processes in order to transform something, a raw material, to a useful product. So the process is that. And each process has unit operations. And the unit operations are the main steps or the steps that we are having in order to follow the process. We have different types of unit operations. The first type that we're going to be analyzing or stating is the reactors. And reactors are unit operations where a reaction takes place. And they can come up like tanks, such as this one, or as pipes, or this is a fluid-sized bed. And there are many kinds of reactors, but right now, in more advanced course, you're going to be looking at this probably, but right now, well, just stay with the idea that is where the reactor is taking place, where the reaction is taking place. And sometimes we have to increase temperature or decrease temperature from a fluid or something that is moving. And we use these heat transfer operations. And the main heat transfer operations are the condenser, evaporator, boiler, cooler, and they seem like this. Usually in our diagrams, you can see these kind of symbols. That means that it is a heat transfer operation, and their only purpose is to change the temperature or the state from liquid to gas or from solid to liquid. That's a heat transfer operation. Momentum transfer operations are the ones that are going to be used in order to, to have a flow. Let's say there is a flow of a fluid and we want it to move, right? We want the fluid to move, so that's a flow. We're going to be using pumps, compressors. They may seem like this, okay? But also we can store, and we usually do that in tanks or vessels that are looking like this. And sometimes there is situations where we want to separate mass. We want to filter, and that's where we use filters or separators. We want or the other process, we want to mix. Very common in the industry is a distill column, where you have it in probably one step or many steps. These distill columns are used usually to separate, let's say, alcohol from water, or in the oil industry. You can classify the processes as three types. Let's say the first one is a batch process, is when you are going to input every raw material into the process, you're going to close the process, and you're going to make the process, right? And then you stop, get things out, and then just get them away, right? And this is very used, for instance, in the pharmaceutical and in the food industry, because you want to track down when you did it, how you did it, right? And the continuous process is when you are doing things continuously, as it's said, and you don't need to stop the operation. You are just inputting flows, and this is going to be being processed by a period of time. Sometimes you need to stop this continuous process, and that's what we call a semi-batch. Sometimes you can have a continuous process, but in different periods of time. So that's what we call a semi-batch. And the system can be closed. It can be closed when there is no exchange of materials. So you just input the material, you close it, but there is an exchange of energy. And it could be an open system when there is a flow of material. Materials are entering, are going out, and it's also happening with energy. And the process can also be steady state. Steady state is when there is no accumulation. Everything that is entering is going to go out of the system, but then we can also have a steady state or transient state when, let's say, things are changing inside. Let's say you have a tank and you are inputting some water, and the level of the water in the tank is going to increase. That's going to be unsteady or transient state. And of course, also there is these processes we can do in the diagram process. What we're going to be working is a block flow diagram where you have blocks, and these are flows. So for instance, here you have the liquid and you have another liquid, and they are going to mix in order to to go to a reactor afterwards. And just they are blocks, and you can label them, but it doesn't really matter what happens inside or how this is happening. This is the simplest way of diagrams. But also, you can have other kinds of diagram where the process flow diagram, you have more information. You have here the process of water, you have valves, here is a distillation column, or some kind of unit operation. You have, let's say, here is a vessel, and you have a pumps, and you have reactors, and everything is very specific here, so that you can have an idea of how this process is going, right? This, you have here also a heat exchanger, right? So that's it for today. This is an introduction to unit operations.